Okay, so Vinland Saga recently wrapped up its first season, and it's easily my favorite anime of the year. So I wanted to give some of my thoughts mainly what happens to the series from here. Also, before I start, no, I have not read the manga, so this video will be discussing the anime only. First off, I wanted to discuss some of the possible plot points that could potentially emerge from this point of the story that we were left off on. My favorite being to do with Canute. My question from this standpoint right now is how exactly does Christianity fit into his character? Does he potentially abandon Christianity and fully becomes a Viking? Or does he go on to follow his real life counterpart's path of becoming the king and spreading Christianity in the Norse regions, as the great leader of the Vikings that his character has quickly developed into in such a short period of time? Either way, both plot points would be pretty big in my opinion, but I think that the second one would be much cooler as Valhallism and Christianity were pretty much polar opposites in that period of history, as Vikings were very much anti-establishment and they were very much anti-church. This is obviously true in Vinland Saga. If you guys remember, there was that one episode where Asalad's goons were borderline torturing a priest. Also in episode 14 where the entire village of Christians were massacred, and pretty much the entire premise of Willibald's character, so naturally blending two opposites would be a much more interesting concept, and it would be very much historically accurate. On top of that, there is that one scene of Willibald explaining Christianity, and then one Viking seems interested, which could be a form of foreshadowing into the spread of Christianity later on in the series, or I could be reaching, but yeah, there it is. Moving on, there is also the potential plot point, or actually the definite plot point, of the exploration of Vinland or the New World. Some of my questions include how Leif Erikson fits into all of this in terms of his relationship with Thorfinn, and while it does seem painfully obvious that Thorfinn eventually returns to Iceland with Leif Erikson and then makes his way to Vinland, it would be very interesting to see how exactly he convinces him, because if you've watched the show, that you know that there's barely any talk no jutsu or any anime magic or any of that nonsense. It's almost always a logical progression of the story, which is done so incredibly well. Especially in the last episode, I think that the amazing and quick progression of the story is showcased perfectly, where the possibility of Wales being invaded led to Asalad killing the king, which obviously directly led to Canute becoming the king. In almost a few minutes in one episode, the path of the story completely transitions from potentially a war in Wales to quite honestly the unknown. And that's because none of us can confidently say what's going to be the direct consequence or what's going to happen right after the final episode. However, on the other hand, if the final episode had ended right before Asalad killed the king, there's absolutely no doubt that the story would have transitioned into a Wales war arc, and that's obviously not the case anymore. It's not very clear what's gonna happen, and yeah, there's great stuff honestly. Anyways, back to the point. Maybe Thorfinn goes there alone after Asalad's parting words inspire him to go beyond Thor's, which was very poetic coming from the same person that killed Thor's, and maybe offer some sort of condolences for not being able to spar him and for not being able to part him the way that Thorfinn wanted. But yeah, who knows, will definitely be very interesting to see. The conquest of Vinland will definitely be a very big focus of the next few seasons, if not the main focus, because damn near everything revolves around Vinland. It's obviously the series' namesake. Also, it will definitely be the main aspect of Thorfinn's character going forward, because as we know, the real life Thorfinn was a great explorer, and it's obviously what the series has been leading up to at this point. However, the most compelling reason in my opinion is that colonizing Vinland would solve a very big portion of the series' main conflict. The reason why the Vikings have had a hard run for colonizing England for the past 10 years is because it's a relatively warm and fertile land compared to their land, right? Else is there a completely uninhabited, fertile and warm land. So I think that there will be a lot of conflict when it comes to the conquest of Vinland, possibly a conflict with the natives, or maybe it'll all boil down to a conflict between Leif Erikson and Thorfinn wanting to create a utopia on Vinland and other Vikings who may want in. The second one being more plausible in my opinion. Some of the relationships between characters were also very intriguing to me in the first season, so I wanted to discuss some of them. The relationship between Thorfinn and Canute especially was very intriguing to me because it isn't exactly historically accurate 100% to the best of my knowledge. They never actually met in real life, and neither did Canute have anything to do with Thorfinn's conquest of Vinland. So because of this, I think that Makoto Yukimura's artistry will definitely shine much more, because in history shows and animes or other media in general, I try to really ask myself what the author has added to the story. I really don't care about how the author just transcripts history, as the history itself already exists in real life, right? So my question is always, how do you turn your take on any particular time period into its own story, and then how do you take this story and then appropriately put it into the setting of the time period where it doesn't seem like it's a whole different story and where it actually fits the setting? And that's usually what interests me most when I'm watching history media. So the way that Canute is incorporated into the inevitable Vinland conquest arc is definitely one of the things that I'm most excited about. The other relationship that I was interested in and I wanted to discuss was that of Thorfinn's and Asalad, which holy fucking goddamn shit is one of the best in anime ever. It's controlling, it's borderline abusive, it's selfish on both sides, like there just isn't enough words to describe it. Like, can we talk about how Asalad had this man on a leash to do just whatever he wanted him to do, as long as he just sparred him later on, which he obviously won always. And their relationship dynamic was also very complex, as best illustrated in my opinion in two instances. First instance being when Thorfinn stops Thorkel from hurting Asalad, not because he truly cares for him, but because his pride simply won't let him see Asalad die without him being the one to do it. And also because he wants to be absolved of the regret of seeing his dad get killed in front of his own eyes. And the second example obviously is in the final episode, the same idea is reinforced. The idea of him not wanting to kill him for the sake of revenge only, but for the sake of honorable revenge for his father, which was a great concept in the story, and a concept that makes Asalad's death just that much more wrenching in this already very dark and already very twisted relationship, because now Thorfinn will never really get to be the one to kill him, and I don't think that he'll ever be at peace with himself, which I think will probably be a lasting dark cloud over Thorfinn's character going forward. And yeah, that was just me giving my thoughts on my favorite anime of the year. Let me know what was your favorite anime of 2019, and thank you for watching.